Hi, everyone. Welcome to another powerful episode of Words, Images, and Worlds. I say powerful because I'm talking with a person behind Power Comics himself, and that is Austin Huff. Austin, thank you for jumping in and joining.
Jason, thanks for having me as always. Good to be
Of
here.
course. Glad to have you back. And I think the last time we talked, you were interviewing in front of some art to kind of stand-ups, but now we have some lovely framed background action that is currently happening with Masters as well.
Yep. We've got the Masters directly behind me, and over to my right are some comic covers of the Super Joe Unlimited comic series that we are going to have printed and shipped October 1 of this year. So we got about 3 weeks to go.
Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask what is new and upcoming in the world of Power Comics, so that is definitely right around the corner.
Yeah, Jason, we've got so many new things. I mean, when I started Power Comics, it was just the Masters, and my hopes, my hope was to get the Masters out, do it the way I wanted to do it, because my thought was, if this is the only thing I ever do, I mean, I'm going down in a blaze of glory. I mean, the whole spaghetti at the wall, right? You just throw as
Hmm.
much as you can and see what sticks, and go big or go home, and we come up with as many cliches, right? But all of a sudden, things just started to, I don't know, opportunities started to arise. We had an opportunity to do a comic book focused on the Super Joe action figures, reintroduction of the figures that were from the late 1970s. We've had opportunities to work with comic strips for that wonderful children's publication, A Kid in a Comic, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and we have so many other things that we're doing. You know, we're finishing up the Masters. We're putting together an omnibus for the Masters with all kinds of extra materials. We're putting together a an origin story book, for the Masters characters, very similar to the old 1975, I think it was, Bring On the Bad Guys from Marvel Comics and Stan Lee.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're going to do origin stories of all five of the Masters and the mastermind behind the Masters, and release that as a big graphic novel, probably in spring, late spring, early summer of next year.
Nice.
Going back to A Kid in a Comic, a couple of the strips that we are working with John at A Kid in a Comic on for this series, we're using the A Kid in a comic strips to launch those titles. We have two titles. We want to launch those into full-fledged comic books of their own, and have Kickstarters going for them next spring or early summer as well. So there are a lot of things doing, and we're messing around with Jason. We're messing around with everything from science fiction like Super Joe to some like superhero slash adult comedy with the Tales from Ultra City at A Kid in a Comic. We're delving into mystery, suspense, and monsters with Dead of Night, which is another strip that we're doing with A Kid in a Comic. So we're kind of going all over the place. And I'm
Hmm.
also I have a project that I'm working on with a cartoonist that you may be familiar with. I don't want to announce his name yet, but we're looking at getting a comic strip, cartoon style comic strip, syndicated nationwide in various newspapers. So we have a lot of balls in the air, Jason.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. Absolutely. Now, I know that you are currently funding a project on Kickstarter, so please tell us what that is, what that is, and
Yep.
the approach you want to take there, because I know you have about 1 week as of this posting.
Yeah, that's correct. We have about a week. We're doing great. We're almost at the $7,000 mark at this time. And again, to let your audience know, it's the conclusion issue number 5 of the Masters.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we've done the first 4. Issue 4 is actually shipping right around when we're recording this. So everybody who backed the Masters issue 4 should have those be ending up in their mailboxes really soon. We've already released the digital downloadable versions of issue 4 to everybody. But Masters 5 is what we're kickstarting now. It's the conclusion. It's where we find out the mastermind behind the Masters. and it is man, it's so exciting. It's like to be able to start something and finish something. It's kind of like going to college, you know. You
Hmm.
like you
Hmm.
start there freshman year, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I'm graduating. I actually completed something. But completing a comic book series for a guy who never did it until he, was 53 years old, man, that's everybody expected me to go to college and finish it, right? Not everybody was expecting me to do this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is quite an achievement. It's something that I'm really proud and excited about. So, we're doing great with the Kickstarter. Like I said, we're almost at 7 grand. I think we can top 10. I think we can hit all of our stretch goals. We might even, man, you know what? God willing, we might even get up to 12,500 and get all of our stretch goals accomplished. But we're way
May it be
ahead of,
so.
yeah, we're way ahead of issue four's pace. And we still have, as of the airing of this, 7 days to go.
Nice, nice. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned that Masters was sort of the lead-in project for you, and I remember we had a conversation about that on our first episode together. What is it like to bring a story full circle and kind of have that conclusion that you're now sharing?
It's, man, it's such a feeling of pride. I'm very proud. I'm proud of all of the people who jumped in and supported me. I'm proud of all of the people behind the scenes who have, understood the trials and tribulations. I'm so proud and thankful for all of the people who have been with me and this project from the beginning.
Hmm.
I am a data driven guy. I don't believe in statistics. I believe in data. And if you don't understand the difference between the two, I suggest you go and get yourself a dictionary and understand the difference between statistics and data. Data drives everything, especially when you are in a business to make money.
Hmm.
I love making comic books, but if I'm not making enough money to get the comic books I'm producing out, I have to at least break even,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but I look at data. I'm data driven. Every time you do a Kickstarter sends you a an Excel spreadsheet. It tells you these are all the people who backed, and this is how much money they spent. And I'm going through all of the people because I stay in contact with these people. They've
Hmm.
proven to me, they've showed me that they like what I'm doing enough to give me their hard earned money. If that doesn't speak more volumes to us than clicking a like on an Instagram post, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
These are the
Yeah.
these are the people that need my attention. They've shown me the love. I show them the love back. And the point is that I'm going through all these databases and I'm merging them and I'm getting rid of all the excess stuff. And I see people names of them just listed. They backed the first Kickstarter that didn't fund. Then they
Hmm.
backed all the ones that did. And there are literally hundreds of people who have done this. And everybody on this list, when we put the omnibus together, we're going to print out, all the pages of all the names of all the people who backed and everybody who backed all of the Kickstarters. Their name's going to be nice and bold so everybody can see these people have supported us from the beginning, every step of the way. That
Nice.
is such an amazing. It warms my heart. I don't know what else to say, Jason.
Yeah, yeah. Great to build that readership and great to share the stories that you want to share. Have there been particular inspirations behind your work, behind your interest in comics as you've been going?
Well, I mean, the Masters, as you well know, the big inspirations behind the Masters were, of course, um, the 1966 Batman Adam West TV show.
Hmm. Hmm.
I wanted to create some characters in that style, very flamboyant,
Yeah,
boisterous, in your face, hysterical, colorful, and then of course love. I'm a big art fan. I'm a Chicago guy, so I have the Art Institute of Chicago that I have been going to ever since I was a little kid. And one of my first remembrances of my favorite artist was Salvador Dali, the great
hmm,
surrealist. And it all started with him. So I've got this love for Adam West Batman and the villains, specifically the villains. And then I have a love for Dolly and all these other artists like Magritte and Toulouse-Lautrec and Ansel Adams and Andy Warhol and Keith Haring. I mean, you name it, on and on and on. And it was like, okay, why can't I take some of these people and inspire villains that I can do something kind of like the old Batman show? And then, of course, my favorite comic book growing up in the 70s, In the Bold. Artists turned him into my favorite kind of villain, and I put him in The Brave and the Bold,
Oh,
where
nice,
you would
nice.
have a superhero like Batman team up with another superhero like Green Arrow or the Red Tornado or the Atom or the Black Canary or whomever, and they would battle individual villains. And it just took off from there. So, the Bronze Age specifically was my inspiration. I mean, I grew
Mhm.
up, I was born in 69, I graduated high school in 86. That's kind of like the beginning and the end of the Bronze Age, according to the textbooks, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's pretty much where all the inspiration came from, Jason. And then, of course, you look at what we're doing, like with Super Joe. Well, I was a big Mego collector as a kid. I still am. I mean, if I turned my camera over here, you'd see all of my Mego collection, which you can see photographs of in all of the issues of the comics.
Hmm.
And Super Joe was almost in the same scale. So having Super Joe action figures with my Migos was great. I also collected Big Jim and the 12-inch GI Joe Adventure Team figures and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So Super Joe, man, that was a no-brainer. When I was told that we would have an opportunity to do a Super Joe Unlimited comic book focusing on those action figures, I'm like, sign me up.
nice, nice.
And then the others, of course, my good friend Scott Pierce, who is the vice president of words and images at Power Comics, which is a great title, but an unpaid position. He came up with the whole idea for Tales from Ultra City, which were these, I guess, just this group of superheroes of sorts that he created, but they all have a lot of idiosyncrasies. And they're not all there in the head sometimes. And it's just a comic farce of things. And it's so funny.
Hmm.
So we're
Hmm.
like, okay, let's do this. And there's just so many things out there, Jason. I mean, once you start doing one thing, all of a sudden it just starts snowballing. Dead of Night, for example, was just a character that we came up with. We pulled him out of the public domain. Barney Dunn, a newspaper reporter. I wanted to have a newspaper reporter of sorts in the Masters. We made him the best friend of Doug Danville, the Black Owl. And now we're spinning him off into his own comic book called Dead of Night, where he is a newspaper reporter in the mold of a Carl Kolchak, but also with a lot of John Constantine vibe.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we look at him as the love child between Kolchak and Constantine. And, it's like, so now we're going to do a monster title. And again, God willing, I've had conversations with Tom Grummett, and Tom Grummett wants to do the comic.
Nice,
How cool
nice.
would that be?
Very, very. I was going to ask about some of those collaborators and anybody from the band that you would want to introduce because I know you work with a wide range of talent that's worked on the project.
Man, on issue 5, everybody has really stepped up. I mean, I could go through the whole list. I could go from,
Hmm.
guys like Daryl Banks, who did the cover, the cover A for issue 5, who I've known for a while now, and he is wonderful to work with. And he created this cover probably 3.5, 4 years ago. I've been sitting on this cover wanting to use it for that long. Alex
Nice.
Saviuk and Jeff Isherwood, who are always available for me. I pick up the phone, I send them an email. They are Johnny on the spot. They're absolute salt of the earth guys. Al Milgram, the same way, who recreated his David Letterman cover. Joe Rubenstein, who has probably been, the thread that has kept everything sewn together. He has brought so many people to the party to get this done. I remember I first reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'm looking for all these different guys. I know they're your friends. I'm hoping we can get them to pencil some covers and you can ink them." And every single guy he reached out to, I mean, we're talking everybody from Alan Weiss to Mike Grell to Butch Geiss and everybody in between, probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 different people have all come on board. Um,
Nice.
Bart Bart Sears steps up and does 10 pages in issue 5. And I know he was super busy, but he took the time to get it done. Stefan Rue, a personal friend of mine, he threw in about 5 or 6 pages. Plus, he's doing the cover to the omnibus book. Butch Geiss steps in and does the final page. Bob Hall did the first 4 pages, and he did those years ago for me. Everybody has stepped up and done things. A couple guys, though, I do want to mention specifically. I mean, I mentioned all
Hmm.
the other guys specifically, but Jimmy Palmiotti, I have a very, very special connection with Jimmy. And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, can you ink a couple of pages?" Jimmy really doesn't do inking anymore. He's more in the creative side, the writing side, with his
Hmm.
wife Amanda and other people. And he said, "Man, no problem." He inked a page of Tom Grummett's and inked a page of Stefan Rue's, and they're beautiful. I don't know what else
Nice.
to say other than they're perfect. And I love you, Jimmy. Jimmy got me back into comic books in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he didn't know it until about 4 or 5 years ago when I approached him in Cincinnati and told him my story. And it's just, I love you, Jimmy. Just remember that. I love you. I appreciate you. The MVP, though, of this book is easily Tom Grummett.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you why. Even though everybody is an MVP for me in their own right, Tom Grummett is like the super duper MVP of this issue because I had 13 pages in issue 5, and I had an artist lined up who all of a sudden backed out on me.
Hmm.
And my dear friend Alex Savia, I'm telling him about it. He says, "Man, you need to call Tom Grummett. Here's his number. Here's his email. Give him a call. Send him an email, whatever. But he's your guy because it's 13 pages of the final fight scene between the Masters and the Power Core. This is where everything happens, the
Hmm.
climactic scene." And what I was worried about was that the artist that I put this together with, I did not write any script, Jason. The artist wanted to do it in the Marvel way style, which I'm sure you know is where Stan Lee would tell Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko or whomever, "Hey, man, I want this Spider-Man book to have this bad guy, and I want it to start like this. The middle's got a couple of things got to happen here, and it's got to end like this. Go write
Hmm.
me 22 pages or whatever." Well, that's how he wanted to do it. And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." So all I wrote down, Jason, was direction.
Hmm. Hmm.
These are the two guys fighting. This has to happen. This has to happen. And it has to end like this. And that's it. And I'm telling Grummett, I don't have any written script for you. And he said, "Austin, no problem. I love writing that way." I said, "Really?" He's like, "Absolutely." There's no greater prose pro than Tom Grummett, Jason. Okay.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
He gets these 13 pages done. I could not have given him any better direction than what he had come up with. And as God is my witness, I sat on these pages for at least a year.
Mm.
I couldn't script them because they were perfect. They were perfect. The perfect comic book panel or page or comic book is one that doesn't need words for the reader to understand what's going on. And
Hmm.
Jason, I'm telling you, if you read the entire Masters series up until you get to page 1 of Tom Grummett's work, and I didn't write any word balloons or word sounds or onomatopoeias, any of those things, there was nothing there. You would know exactly what was going on and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who was feeling what emotion where. It was brilliant. And luckily, Tom and his wife, Nancy, were in town a few weeks ago for Fan Expo in Chicago.
Hmm.
And I was actually able to tell Tom this in front of his wife and to say, you know, he is my MVP on the issue on this issue. I have an army of amazing artists, Jason, but Grummett, man, he hit this freaking ball out of the park.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Well, looking forward to seeing that for sure. And I mean, and a creator who goes all the way back to when I was getting into comics in the 90s and beyond. So,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if I'm a listener out there and I want to find out more, if I want to see the Masters or any of the offerings from Power Comics, where might I go to do that?
Well, the best thing to do is to go to Kickstarter and search Power Comics or search the Masters or my name, Austin Hough, Hough, and you will find what we currently have, what we've previous had. We also have a couple of old Kickstarters that we moved over to Indiegogo to get any extra backers who are looking to catch up on some past issues of the Masters or Super Joe Unlimited. The best social media, I think, for us would be either Power Comics on Instagram or the Power Comics group on Facebook
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
2,500 people who are pretty active in the group. And that's
Nice.
Power Comics with an exclamation point after the word comics. But the best thing about the Masters issue number 5, so the Kickstarter has issue number 5, all of the variant covers, but then it also has all of the previous issues and their variant covers in case you want to catch up. So if you missed the first 4 issues and you're really intrigued by our conversation and you want to go to the Kickstarter and you're afraid you're not going to get those first 4 issues, have no fear, good citizen. They're all there.
Nice. Nice. Love it. Well, Austin, always great to talk with you. I love the passion that you have and the knowledge that you have, and the folks that you work with. All wonderful. The trifecta for sure. Glad to have you back anytime to talk about projects as they come to be.
Love it. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you, man. Always a pleasure to be on here with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glad to have you anytime.